Next guest is Eric Lindstrom, and Eric coordinates a number of Facebook groups, and all of his groups are Batavia focused. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today, Ellen.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the groups you have?
Well, mainly what I have is 5 groups on Facebook, and if anybody is involved in those types of things, there's also pages on Facebook. So 6 in all. There's the main flagship is called We Love Batavia, Illinois. And then there's the Batavia Food and Drink group, which was for the longest time my largest group. There's the Batavia Illinois Job Board, the Batavia Fun and Games group, and then the Batavia Small Business Mall.
Huh. Now, how did you start all these groups, or why did you start all of these groups?
Well, I wanted to open my own business at one point, and figured a good way to do that would be to get involved in some local groups, and I got involved in a couple and decided to start my own. And that's actually the first one I did was the what became the Fun and Games group. And because I wanted to open a game store, but somebody else beat me to it and had a better plan to do it, and I'm glad that they've done that, actually, because now I can do other things.
Well, who are the people that typically look at your pages? What is your profile there?
You know, it's just about everybody and their cousin, it seems. Anybody who wants to know more about Batavia. We've got city council members. I know the mayor's in some of my groups. The chamber, the bicycle commission. It just depends on the topic, and people will come out and start talking about things depending on which group it is.
And what are some of the things that make the group so special? Because I'm on there too, and I love it. And what are some of the things that people respond to?
Well, anytime there's a hot topic in town to talk about, it seems to get a lot of response. I know that most recently, I mean, things like the school board election got a lot of conversation. The talk about a crosswalk at Houston and Batavia Avenue got a lot of talk. And then also in the food and drink group, something that we've had that's gotten a lot of feedback and we've had a lot of fun with over the last 3 years was the appetizing April tournament.
Now tell me more about the appetizing April tournament.
We set up a bracket of 64 because I have to count. This one thing I forgot to check before I came was I think there's 65 restaurants in Batavia right now.
Wow.
Between fast food and sit down and all different bars and restaurants in town. And the last 3 years we've had a tournament, bracket style tournament like March Madness, and everybody votes between one or the other and picks their favorite. And the first year we had it, the winner was Batavia Creamery. Okay. And the second year it was El Taco Grande, and then this year it was Crosstown Pub and Grill. Ah. So we've had some fun with it.
It's hard to choose. There's so many good restaurants in Batavia.
I find it interesting that we've had 3 different winners in 3 years too.
And 3 different kinds of food in 3 different locations.
Exactly.
This is fun.
So and I think it's be interesting to see how many people vote next year and who they decide they want to be the favorite restaurant.
Just a little bit of fun and a little bit of sharing information about the town.
Yeah, I think as long as people don't take it too seriously.
Yes.
I mean, it's meant to be fun, and sometimes it's not as fun, especially from my end, where you're trying to coordinate all these things. But it certainly keeps people talking about the restaurants. I love when people in the food group talk about, especially, I forgot about that place.
Yes, I've done that.
There's a lot of restaurants that don't get as much publicity in town that are well loved but not well talked about.
And sometimes we all gravitate toward the newer places and our old favorites. We say we've got to go back there, and we they fall out of the rotation sometimes for us.
Exactly, and so it's fun. Like I said, and we've had some newcomers to town say, hey, who has the best pizza? And sometimes that'll strike up a conversation.
Absolutely.
And you know, and for the most part, I mean, I do allow the restaurant owners to advertise in the group. Some of them have taken me up on that. I don't, you know, it's free advertising for these guys, as long as we've tried to keep it from being too spammy. But for the most part, I think we've helped expose the scene that people don't realize we have in Batavia.
And I think that's something important that your sites do. They expose us to things that we might not normally think about in town.
Well, and that's kind of where I got interested in it. Was I joined a very large group of people. It's slipping my mind right now, but it's for people who are born in Batavia.
Okay.
And a very large group, and they. A lot of it was talk about the history of town, and I love regional history of the Midwest. I mean, small town history. Go ahead and take your big towns. I love a town the size of Batavia with its river history and all the different manufacturing, and I think that some of the stories that came out of there made me interested, and that's kind of where. Like I said, we were just talking before we started here about the basketball court.
Yes.
In the old Hubbard's building. And a lot of people don't know about the 1912 state champs in basketball in Batavia. They don't even know that team existed.
Right.
And that court was, used to be the basketball court that the basketball team played on.
So there's a lot of things that you're aware of. You're a lifelong Batavian then?
No.
No, you're not.
I've been playing catch-up since we moved here in 2006.
Oh my goodness, you've done a lot of catch-up considering it's only been since 2006.
Yeah, well, I've tried to dive right in and make myself at home, and hopefully I've been accepted.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the things people might not know about your various not websites, but Facebook pages?
They don't see how many people I don't let in. There's a lot of, one of the most common things you'll see on Facebook is fake profiles. Or people on the other side of the world that have absolutely nothing to do with Batavia will ask to join the group. And when I go and look at their profile, they'll have 30 different groups that they've joined that all start with the letters BA.
Oh.
And it's like they pick a letter and they decide, or in the case of the We Love Batavia group, they have a bunch of people that have joined a bunch of groups that start with we. And they're just random people that, so I have to filter out a lot of the people that aren't really authentic. One of the number one things is that if I see somebody wants to join the group, and they have friends in the group, then I automatically will accept them typically. And it seems a little complicated sometimes, and I probably overcomplicate it, but I try to keep it filtered a little bit so it's not, it doesn't turn into garbage dump for spammy posts and things like that.
And I think it's much better that you stop all of those things proactively rather than wait for the spam to come up.
Yeah.
And try to stop it after it's started.
Mm-hmm. And that's, it's, like I said, it's not always, my wife would say it takes a little too much time out of my life, but I know how I want it to look, and I think for the most part, I've created all these different groups. I wish some of the others were utilized a little bit more, but for the most part, I think there's something there in each of the groups. If you can't find one group that interests you, then I don't know how interested you are in Batavia. Unless you just don't want to be on Facebook, which there's also a lot of that still.
Well, if you want to eat in Batavia, it sounds like your places are the place to be to find those things.
Well, I try to help, and I know I've learned a lot more about restaurants.
So how can people find out more? How can people find your pages to join them?
The easiest way would be to just go to Facebook and do a search for We Love Batavia, Illinois. And there'll be a page and there'll be a group. They can join the group. They can like the page. And I'll post information about all the groups on the page. And there's links also.
Excellent. So people can find your parent group and all of the other groups that are there as well and learn a lot more about Batavia. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eric, and thank you for telling us about all this.
And thanks for having me, Ellen.
Thank you. And now we'll take a brief time out to hear from some of our sponsors. We'll be back in just a moment.